What's going on, guys? John here with Jack for another episode of Talking Ball, and today we're looking at the New York Knicks, who had, a pretty solid NBA draft this year, 2017, and we'll start off here with the fact that Kristaps Porzingis is still a New York Knick and should continue to be a New York Knick, in the near future, at least for this full season. We'll see if Phil Jackson tries to dance around a trade once again next year, but personally, I doubt it. Jack, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I think Phil was trying to play some mind games here, and I don't think they worked, but I don't think it's necessarily helpful. But I think that's really what this came down to.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily a good look at all, or helpful for Porzingis, who skipped his exit interview, as everyone's noted.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't happy with the Knicks. I don't see how any of this makes him any happier.
No.
When he's clearly your best player, when, you could try to argue it's Carmelo, but Phil's come out already and basically said to Carmelo, hey, buddy, waive your no trade clause because we want to get rid of you.
Yeah.
So Porzingis is clearly their number one player, and for him to be going out and saying these things to the media, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm at a loss.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't know what Phil Jackson is doing. I mean, we've had so much faith in him when he came to the Knicks, and last year when he got Derrick Rose and Courtney Lee and Joakim Noah, and we thought, okay, maybe they're really building something, and then that all fell apart, and he's now publicly pissed off both Carmelo Anthony and Kristaps Porzingis, who, no way around it, are your two best players on the roster, and you just have to wonder what they're doing, why they're doing this. And what the end game is for Phil Jackson and the Knicks, who now seem to have absolutely no direction. They did have a decent draft, but what is the direction of this team? Every Knicks fan or NBA fan in general has to be wondering.
Absolutely. So let's get into their selections here. At 8, they went with Frank Ntilikina, or as we'll refer to him for the remainder of this video, French Frank, and it was a clear indication of their direction. Clear indication that they believe in the triangle. Clear indication that they wanted a guard who not only could defend and guard multiple positions, but also shoot the three ball well, and just be reliant as a spot up guy. And clearly, as much as many people have thought Dennis Smith would be the better option, as a guy who would be explosive, play really nicely in a pairing with Porzingis, they went for a guy who I think, honestly, despite the fact that he's an international prospect, may have a higher floor than Dennis Smith, but he certainly does not have a higher ceiling.
Yeah, without a doubt there. And, I was high on Dennis Smith. I mean, it's hard, frankly, to scout these international guys and to have a clear idea of what they're going to be because of the level of competition and because it's just a different game overseas than it is really even college American basketball. So French Frank here is very much more of an unknown than Dennis Smith. What is known is that he's younger. He's about a full year younger than Dennis Smith, which definitely does help when you're talking about a team that is obviously still rebuilding, obviously still needs a lot of work, and the younger you can get guys, the better. But Dennis Smith, to me, still I think is the better pick. He was one of my favorite players in this draft. He's explosive. He's a great scorer. He's got just this tenacious ability, this bulldog mentality that not many guys have. And I think he might have been a better pick for the Knicks, but I think French Frank, not a bad pick by any means. And he'll be a guy who obviously is going to be their starting point guard day one and will contribute and get the ball to Kristaps and Carmelo if he's still there for whatever reason.
Yeah, and one side note here is, Frank was playing in his French League championship, and he flew over before the decisive Game 5 before the NBA draft. And I was definitely curious as to why he would do that, but it's clear to me now that he was told by the Knicks they would pick him at 8 if he was there. Because otherwise, I just don't understand why you'd fly over and then flying back for the playoff finale there in the Game 5 series clincher. And so, yeah, Frank definitely put himself in a tough situation to go play back for his home team. He will be back assuredly for you Knicks fans next season. He for sure. Plans are made that he will be coming over to the NBA. Another note that I'd like to make here is that the professional leagues in Europe are a higher level of competition than college. I think that people can misconstrue that at times. The top level leagues, top level teams there are definitely a higher level of competition than your collegiate team, even your North Carolinas and Kentuckys.
Yeah, okay. I think that's a good point. It's true. Even myself, we sometimes it does get misconstrued, as you said. So moving forward there to number 44, the Knicks' second-round pick. I believe that would be Damian Dotson, the shooting guard from Houston, who solid player, a little aged at 23, but still solid. A decent scorer for you, can get some rebounds, and just a guy who. A Knicks roster that definitely doesn't have great depth. He should be able to come in and compete and get a role off the bench more so than a starting role, obviously.
Yeah, they need help in that wing area. Dotson's got good size as a scorer. I think it was a worthy flyer at the position they were taking him in the draft. Especially since, he's had a long, winding route to get here as a transfer from Oregon. But Dotson, I think there's a chance he makes this team, especially just because they need help at the wings and guys who can create for themselves.
Yeah, I think that definitely goes without saying there for the Knicks. And then the final guy here, Jack, I don't know too much about him. I don't know if you know much about him. I believe that would be Ogden Yaramas from Mega BMAX. That is the team he played for internationally. He's a point guard, 6'4", 193, and overseas he averaged 14.5 points, 3 rebounds, and 3.5 just about assists. So, Jack, I don't know if you're familiar with Yaramas here, but even if you aren't, do you think maybe even at 58, he'll be able to contribute for the team a year or two down the road? Because I would say without a doubt right away, they're going to stash him overseas.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know too much about Yaramas here. He's definitely a guy who has good size. You can say that for sure at the position. Almost 6'5". Good. He could be a productive player down the road. I think this is we talked about it in the Celtics video. It just makes more sense to take an international guy at this point in the draft just because you can stash him. Whereas if you take an American prospect here, a collegiate player, then most likely you got to cut them if they're not worthy of making your roster, and then you lose the rights to the player. Whereas Yaramas can improve overseas, or if he improves overseas, then you're not losing the spot for him. Having said that, the two additional two-way spots definitely change the pick positioning for a lot of teams. I think in the second round, especially the end of the second round.
All right, guys, let us know what you think about the Knicks NBA draft. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? What do you think about the direction of the team? Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for listening, guys. We're out.